Hey guys, this is the Card Sharks. I'm Golden Nova, and this is Maddie Blacktail.
Yo.
Speaking of which, what's your latest gag on how to introduce Dr. Pepper into our videos?
This. Brought to you by the Institute of Overdraws.
Awesome. Well, us here at the Card Sharks respect the meta, although we'd rather slap them in the face.
Says the G-Beast user.
Maddie, they haven't been meta since Bestiary got limited to 1, okay?
Sure.
But we'd much rather have decks that are original and fun, which is why we've decided to introduce Game King 31 today. Speaking of which, why isn't he here? He's supposed to be here by now.
I don't know. Maybe he's falling behind just a little bit.
Dun 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 dun.
Maddie, why are you humming the Jaws theme?
Hello.
Ah! Holy crap!
Yo, what's up, my peeps?
Game King, never, ever do that again.
Oh, you ass.
Well, Game King 31 has one of the most strangest WTF decks I have seen ever. Game King, would you kindly run us through it?
Yes. Now, as we know, the main staple of many meta decks is draw power, except for the Gladiator Beasts, who don't really need it. But the inspiration for this deck really came from one time when I went to a Yu-Gi-Oh! Tournament. I saw a meta user rambling on a not-so-meta user for using a specific card called the Bistro Butcher. As those of you who have seen it know, it's an 1800 attack power monster that when it inflicts battle damage, it allows your opponent to draw 2 cards. And this is what the meta user was grilling her about. That you shouldn't use cards that give your opponent a distinct advantage like that. Well, what if I thought, what if I could prove them wrong? And thus I created the Overdraws, proving that too much of a good thing is bad for you.
Alright, that's a good take.
Starting off with the monsters of this deck, we got 3 Needleworms. Fun little flip effect. And it's basic milling, top 5, helps you go through their deck. Morphing Jar number 2, also fun. Another flip effect, all the monsters on the field get returned to each person's respective deck. And you both keep on going through your deck till you find another level 4 lower, and you place them face down. This helps against higher level beat stick decks, swarming decks, spell and trap heavy decks, so on. And it helps with this deck a lot because very few monsters are over level 4. Next, 2 Chainsaw Insects. It's got the strength of a Monarch and it can be easily summoned. Its downside is actually an upside in this deck. Whenever it battles, your opponent gets to draw a card at the end of the damage step. 2 Hero Shadow Scouts. When it flips, it makes your opponent draw 3 cards, and any spells or traps that they draw, just spells, are sent to the graveyard. So, this gives them draw power, and you don't have to worry about a follow-up with something like Heavy Storm, Lightning Vortex, or any other spells you can think of that could possibly hurt you. Then, G-Hero Defenders. Really good stall card. With such high defense, it's really hard to find anything to get past it for a while at least, and it helps them bleed out their deck by making them draw each standby. Kuraz, just 1 for some field destruction, also allows them to draw, so really helps. Mask of Darkness to recycle a trap, which we'll get into later, and a Morphing Jar, which everybody loves, for some draw power and some discarding.
Okay, in the spells section, we have 3 Gravekeeper Servants. Every time your opponent attacks, they have to mill the top card off the top of their deck, which is basically the kind of theme of the deck here. 3 Hand Destructions. Each player sends 2 to the grave from their hand and then draws 2 more. A Book of Eclipse. The Stranger counterpart for Book of Moon. It puts all monsters on the field in the face-down defense position, which will help you reutilize your flip effect monsters. And during the end phase, all of their monsters are flipped back up, and they draw a card for each one. 2 Dark World Dealings. Just trying to replicate the hand destructions here. Each player draws 1, then discards 1. The Shallow Grave. Since this deck has good flip effect monsters, or just good defense monsters in general, playing the Shallow Grave will most times help you out more than your opponent. If you, say, bring back a Morphing Jar 2, all kinds of stuff. Nightmare Steel Cage. There weren't any spare swords around, so we decided to use Nightmare Steel Cage. But since you won't be attacking very much in this deck, it doesn't matter. The only thing that is bad is that you don't get that 1 turn. Card Destruction can be your game card. If you make your opponent draw a buttload of cards and then play Card Destruction, they got their work cut out for them after a while. Level Limit Area B, more stalling. Heavy Storm doesn't see very liberal use in this deck, but it helps get out of sticky situations.
In the trap section, we have 3 Miracle Locusts. What this card does is it gives one of your face-up attack position monsters 1,000 extra attack, and they can attack twice. Although your opponent receives no battle damage, they have to draw a card. Considering Chainsaw Insect's effect, you're looking at the possibility of destroying not only 2 of their monsters, but making them draw 3 cards total. Trap Dust Shoot is for, considering that your opponent draws a large amount of cards, they might draw a monster you don't want in their hand. And if it's a 5 or higher, they could set up for Morphing Jar number 2 to completely get rid of it. Ordeal of a Traveler is very good for returning cards to their hand, building up the card number in their hand, either for making them discard at the end of the turn, considering they can only summon 1 monster per turn, or setting up for hand destruction or Morphing Jar. Assault on GHQ is very good if you want to custom flip one of your face-down flip effects. If you destroy one of your monsters, you make them mill 2 cards. Very good combo with Needleworm. Compulsory Evacuation Device. Useful when getting rid of those pesky monsters that continuously do stuff you don't want them to, or Synchros. Once again, building their hand up. Desert Sunlight. Flip all of your face down
monsters face up.
Face down monsters face up. Once again, after Book of Eclipse, you can reutilize your Needleworms, Morphing Jars, Sakuretsu Armor. I don't have a Deep Prison, so I decided to use this. And Wabaku to protect many more of your monsters.
And that's been the Overdraw deck. As usual, we would like you to leave your comments about the WTFness of this deck. I'll post links as people request them because all the cards are just kind of splayed over the entire of Wikia.
You lazy bum.
Right, well, Game King 31, it's been fun having you.
It's been fun being on this show.
And this has been the Card Sharks.